On May 8th of this year, I dropped an absolute bomb of rambling opinions focused on the rather lackluster usage of alternate playable characters in the world of Mario, an aspect I concluded to be severely underutilized among this otherwise stellar series. The very next month in their June Direct, Nintendo reveals what I can only presume to be a full-fledged response to my video in the form of Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Wowzas, a brand new 2D Mario adventure after a near decade of dormancy that totally quenched all of our dying thirsts. It only took a mere couple of seconds for me to be convinced that this was the equivalent to the second coming of Jesus Christ. And about a minute later, I was blessed by the sights of Luigi, Peach, Toad, Yoshi, and even Daisy. What? Holy guacamole, after what felt like an eternity of staring at the same roster in the mainline entries, here is our salvation. Super Mario Wonder's playable cast, the answer to this character crisis. Okay, yeah, I see that huge asterisk too. Yes, there are 12 characters selectable among this menu, yet to be fair, you could point out how 4 of them are purely color swaps. And yeah, to that, there's not much to rebuttal with. But I mean, that still leaves a whopping 8 truly unique characters, which is still the most a single Mario game has ever boasted. So, you can keep your stinky semantics to yourself. Of course, Mario and Luigi are the definition of backbone to this series. If you don't have both of them playable in the year 2023, then you may as well be playing some Sonic Superstars. Peach is always a delight to see among the roster instead of being kidnapped. I don't know, something about her presence always puts a nice pretty bow on the lineup. But good googly moogly, the other princess here takes the spotlight. Even though I'm nowhere near her biggest fan, a bit of a hater actually, seeing Daisy get her first playable appearance and heck, first general appearance in a hot minute in a mainline game was not something I was particularly expecting. Yet it was far overdue. Seeing characters such as Rosalina and Toadette, while cool in their own rights, get into the playable club before her was frankly embarrassing. Speaking of whom, Toadette is starting to look like a total mainstay among any given roster. And don't worry, I'm talking strictly Toadette, none of that Peachette nonsense here. The yellow and blue Toad Bros make their anticipated comeback as separate characters once again. And given my known thoughts about these goofballs, you may think I'd pause everything to scoff at them. But with the surrounding pieces being so good, I think they can fly under the radar just fine. If it was up to me, I'd love to see these two replaced by Captain Toad, since he's like the main Toad nowadays while also sporting a snazzy outfit to boot. I know he's in the game already, but he doesn't do jack malarkey, so join the roster, brother. Regardless, even if we stopped right here, this lineup honestly feels pretty dang solid. You got your plumbers, your princesses, and the Toads. Sure, the desire for your Warios and Rosas will always be there, though realistically this is among the best you can ask for in a standard Mario romp. And we're not even done yet. There's a whole group of Yoshis coming in a variety of colors: green, red, yellow, and light blue. It's kinda strange that the green one isn't addressed as such, rather just plainly Yoshi, yet all the others have their color in fronts. I feel like there's some deep political commentary to make here. Anywho, last but not least, there's that boy, Nabbit, who low-key just kinda became a main Mario character out of nowhere. Did anybody else notice that? His come-up must be studied for generations. Now, these last 5 that I mentioned are a bit different than the rest of the normal characters, as they fall into the ever-so-lovely accessibility buckets. As that name implies, they all have certain attributes to make the game easier in some regards. Nabbit should come to no surprise, as he's officially been designated as the go-to for 5-year-olds, as sad as that is to say. You have your standard Nabbit stuff, not being able to use power-ups, but in return, you're able to take any non-instantly lethal damage to the chin and keep trucking. Except this time, he's not all Danny Phantom-esque. I still think they keep missing the easiest layup opportunity by not doing anything with his sack. Come on, let him grab enemies and store them to use as a projectile like literally all the other 4 easy characters can do. Segue into Yoshi. Even though he's a bit of a veteran when it comes to mainline Mario adventures, this is sort of some new territory for our dinosaur friend, as it's his first sprint as an actual selectable character, and not some pseudo power-up thingy. I know Mario 64 DS exists, please don't tell me in the comments. Thankfully, he still retains most of his classic Yoshi abilities from his own series of games like Yoshi's Island and Story that you've come to associate with him, which is super good since I think having a vanilla playing Yoshi would be the most uncanny thing to ever exist, so we dodged that bullet thankfully. They can swallow up and spit out enemies and power-ups, flutter jump, and even let other players, including other Yoshis, ride on their backs. What makes them an easy character is that they also share an immunity towards taking damage akin to Nabbits, except they actually do flinch when taking the hits. Let me tell you, this was utterly devastating to uncover, as it prevented my ego from picking any of the Yoshis during my main playthrough of the game, which is a crying shame since they somehow cranked up the normal Yoshi cuteness 1000%. Whoever had the idea to tweak their design back towards their original Mario World look deserves eternal prosperity. Let me tell you, my heart legitimately skipped a beat hearing the light blue Yoshi's little noise he makes when being selected. And that's not to mention the way their noses turn bright red when fluttering due to straining themselves or whatever the heck this is. The animations in this game are already top tier, but they were cooking with Yoshi. I know Yoshi games are usually on the easier side of things, so it's not a reach for them to be a beginner type character. Although I do think the invincibility perhaps went a tad overboard. Yes, you do need some drawbacks for all of their extra Yoshi-esque abilities, sure, but not being able to use power-ups was a fair enough compromise, though I may just be trying to cope at this point. And to be fair, the presence of a good handful of easy characters was needed to rectify the humongous headache that was New Soup Deluxe's case of selective accessibility. Alright, so basically in Deluxe, if you were playing with a full party of 4 people, no matter the skill level present among the group, someone would be forced to play an easy character and vice versa. However, in Wonder, across the 12 characters, there's plenty of normal and easy picks to go around the room for any number of combinations accommodating any range of skill levels. I am glad that they attended to this much needed fix, but you know what, I'll say it again, what's up with the severe lack of options? I understand the appeal of designating certain characters for the easy mode, but to me this feels like such an unnecessary case of gatekeeping. Again, my old example sings true till this day. Imagine some random 7-year-old playing this game for the first time and they for some reason just love Daisy. Sure, nothing's technically stopping them from choosing her, yet I think we can agree they'd have a much more enjoyable time with the game if they went with one of the easier characters instead. I mean, that is their purpose, for crying out loud. On the flip side, imagine if you're someone who loves Yoshi with all of their hearts, but you still want the tension provided from having to answer to the consequence of getting hit by an obstacle. As it stands, you simply can't have that. It may not seem like such a huge deal, and heck, maybe it's not, but I think any sort of issue you could think of would instantly be solved with the option of a simple easy mode switch for every character in the roster. Yeesh! Sorry, that was a bit of a tangent. Look, despite this little hiccup, from a purely roll call viewpoint, I think Wonder absolutely nails what most people would want from an expansive and varied Mario roster. I genuinely hope this kind of setup is the new norm, as it's honestly hard to imagine going back to this ever again. However, if you managed to stomach my original Crisis video, you should know that this problem goes deeper than surface level appearances. Cosmetics are vital, but so is what's on the inside of the characters too. After the initial hype wore down during Wonder's reveal trailer, it was pretty clear to me that we weren't getting unique character-specific attributes a la Mario 2 USA or 3D World. To keep it real, I was a tad disappointed at the moment, and even though it would by no means ruin the game for me, it was still something I wanted to see. But unbeknownst to me, it turns out that the devs had something a bit more devious cooking up. It's true that with the exception of the Yoshis, every character plays the exact same, aka Mario physics. Average attributes all around with nothing special about them. Luigi plays the same as Toadette, Yellow Toad the same as Peach, and Daisy the same as Mario. However, instead of leaving things all boring and whatnot, there is a total replacement in the form of a brand new system introduced to 2D Mario: badges. I bet I got all the Paper Mario fans' attention real quick right there. A badge is an equipable status put onto your character that affects certain attributes, whether that be a new move, better stats, or some form of help within the levels. You're able to swap between any of your available badges at nearly any points, and there's a total of 24 that you'll constantly discover across the adventure that are split between 3 categories: action, boost, and experts. Action badges are by far the most practical and interesting to use, as they directly give you an added extra layer to your arsenal to play around with that in turn can change how you go about maneuvering the level. Examples: have a slow descent down the sky with your parachute cap, climb up walls vertically with the wall climb jump, dash faster with the fast dash, jump at just the right moments for greater height with the timed high jump, crouch for a second for a huge leap upwards with the crouching high jump. The list goes on and on. I'm not exaggerating when I say all of these, with the exception of the relatively situational dolphin kick, found good usage at many points during my playthrough. It would be hard to pinpoint a single badge that I deemed the absolute best. Or rather, it was more compelling constantly switching up my character's extra ability to see what best suited the specific stage I was on. Boost badges grant the player a specific benefit outside of character abilities that usually in turn makes the level easier in some fashion. Examples: can't make it 5 seconds without getting hit? Well, equip the auto super mushroom to start out big. Do you keep falling into various pits and lava substances? Well, equip the safety bounce to give you a second chance at life. Do you just want to be an elephant all day every day? Well, equip the all-elephant power to turn any power-up into the elephant instead. Yeah, it's pretty clear a majority of these are more so meant for the players who may be struggling and need, well, an extra boost to help them out. You'd still have to keep in mind weighing the bargain of missing out on the more dynamic action badges while using a boost, as you're still only allowed to equip one badge at a time. It's a question of, do you want an active or a passive buff? Although it's safe to assume that if this isn't your first video game ever, then you probably won't be touching any of these 11 badges outside of the handy sensor or wacky rhythm jump. I'm glad that they're here for the people that may need them, although I can't lie, they do kind of eat up almost half of the selection, so taper your expectations when you hear the game has 24 in total. On the other side of the coin, the expert category are somewhat rare badges that add a new advanced ability to the character. You've been given a monkey's paw of sorts. For these added benefits come with an equally disastrous risk you have to constantly manage. Think of it as an action badge on steroids. With Jet Run, you can blitz through the stage at top speeds and even do a sort of DKC leap midair when running off the ground. But the thing is, you can't ever stop. Bounce up high in the sky with spring feet, except, as you probably guessed, you'll never get a moment's rest. How about turning yourself invisible? Enemies can't see you. Yeah, why the heck would you want this? Or what about whatever this is? As enticing as these are in concept, I never found myself using them outside of a few experiment runs through levels I've already been through. And by them, I'm mainly referring to Jet Run and Spring Feet, as Sound Off is more of a gag, a really good one, but still, you get it at the very end of the game, and Invisibility is purely for psychos. I suppose Expert was an appropriate name for them, it's just a shame that there's so few to pick from, as I would be down to see what else they could have come up with. In fact, that's a fairly spot-on summary of this entire thing. I would love to see what future 2D and maybe even 3D Mario adventures can expand on with these badges. Because in theory, this system allows for an even more robust selection of customization, bringing together the cosmetic visuals and gameplay mechanics that are both so important. You can still pick whoever your preferred character is, let's say Peach, while also giving her your preferred speedy style of play, which she's never been known for in the past. Looks like the best of both both worlds, wouldn't you say? Furthermore, it's not as though we're missing much in this badge takeover either, as many of the old specific abilities such as Luigi's high jump, Toad's speedy dash, and Peach's float have been more or less converted to individual badges that any character can use. We do miss out on that duality of compromise with the drawbacks of these set abilities, such as slipperiness, low jumps, and slowness, which is why I find the concept of the expert badges very interesting. Great risk, yet great reward. So there's still plenty of room for improvement if they choose to bring this feature back in the future. Say that 5 times fast. Including hopefully fixing a huge pet peeve oversight that bugs me to the core just thinking about it. Okay, so of course this game has 4-person multiplayer. At this point in the series, it's to be expected. So what? Well, it turns out that each player is subjected to the single badge that is currently equipped. I gotta ask respectfully, why in the world would they design it this way? The beauty of clashing personalization is sitting right there, and you put a damper on it by forcing everyone to agree on a single badge for the time being. What if one person really wants an expert badge, but 2 others want some sort of action badge, while the 4th person is constantly fighting for their life and needs some sort of boost badge? I really don't see any issue with simply allowing the individual to select their own badge before the stage starts. In fact, we can actually see this in action if you hop on the Dark Souls-esque online multiplayer. Racing against your friends with everyone having their preferred badge on is cool to see. It's like a battle of which badge is better for whatever stage you're playing. But imagine if beforehand you all had to agree on the same exact badge. That would be pretty lame, right? You know, honestly, I don't even know why I'm complaining since I played this entire game by myself, so I'm just yapping at this point. The outro transition. Super Mario Bros. Wonder. What a game. It's pretty dang good. Go buy it. Or not, because I'm not sponsored. Does it solve the so-called character crisis that hangs over the Mario series? Kinda, I guess. We'll have to wait to see what the future holds, but for now, I can confidently say it's going in a good direction at least. Just please don't ever add a playable Donkey Kong in these games for the love of all that is holy. Instead, just make a new DK game. Please! I'm begging ya. I'm really on my knees begging right now. Please!